Hi, I am Matt, sometimes known as Aqualung. I do music. Love. Well, it clearly changes. I mean, obviously, it's like what love means is specific to every particular case. You know, so it's like there's one thing for how I feel about my kids, and it's one thing for how I feel about my wife, and it's one thing for all obvious. But also, what your idea about what it is really changes as you grow up, as you grow. You know, it's an interesting point in my life, and it's partly about my relationship, but it's also about relationships with people around me. You know, kind of realizing that the really significant aspect of love, once you get past the puppy love bit into the full-grown hound love, you know, it's just about having someone to be part of it with you, and sometimes that means not being part of it. You know, it's like there's a point in relationships where it's all about being together all the time and all that. You know, and then there's this kind of the kind of love that I was considering with these songs is the one where the relationship is a given. You know, it's become a fact, and sometimes that leads to problems. Sometimes it doesn't. And the people are just getting on with their lives, and it's like you don't even. It's just something that you both know is there when you need it. You know. Well, it's an emotional thing, obviously. Love. It's a very musical idea. I think it's sort of melodic, and it's maybe even more than that. It's about harmony. It's about people they just kind of make a nice sound together, almost, you know. It's like when you meet someone, and that's how it always feels to me. Like you've got your kind of frequency, and they've got theirs, and it's sort of when they go together, it makes a great sound, or it's harmonious. And so it's very natural for music making to be conveying emotion, and it doesn't always have to be about love. But it's a very rich topic, and there's such a close relationship for me between the idea of all the various manifestations of love as a subject matter and the kind of emotional music that I just seem to want to make all the time. That I guess particularly on this record, I thought I wouldn't fight it. You know, so they want all. It feels like these songs all want to kind of be about relationships in various degrees of maturing or falling apart, or being saved at the last minute, or just starting, or whatever. Then so be it. It wasn't a definite thing. You know, for a while I wasn't going to do any more, and the thing I wanted to be very sure of for my own sort of happiness and sort of security almost was that the only reason I would make another record would be because the songs were kind of demanding my attention, and so I was very sort of unpushy about it. You know, sometimes you're like, this is a great idea, I'm going to write this song, I'm going to finish it today, I'm going to demo it, it's going to be like we're going to get in the studio next week and make this record. There was little bits, little fragments, and I knew that I could see that there was some weight to them, but I was like, whatever, you know. I didn't put any pressure on them, you know, and they just sort of, they're like little kind of plants that started to grow little leaves and stuff, and eventually there was loads of them, and I found myself just being more and more inclined to spend time thinking about them, and I thought, okay, all right. Eventually it was like, okay, all right, songs, I give in. I will record you, and we'll call that a record, you know. But even then it wasn't a given. It's like, well, I'm going to start. I'll see, you know, see how it feels, and even then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a record, but telling everyone most likely it'll be my last record, you know. And then by the end of making the record, it had been such a sort of wholeheartedly enjoyable, delightful, stimulating experience, and it'd been very pure somehow in the making. It was really, there was no agenda. It was very unself-conscious. It was just whatever felt right. I loved it, and I came back and I sort of found myself wondering if perhaps I wouldn't mind doing some more. So it's been an interesting little road. Well, you obviously don't have any idea what might happen next, and it also might not be the next batch of songs. Whenever that comes to happen, might come from a different place. You know, this this selection just feels very much to do with where I've been in my real life in the last few years. And between now and the next record, some other stuff will probably happen, and who knows? It might be I might want to be writing, political songs. I mean, God forbid, but you never know. Well, I'm conducting myself fairly significantly differently. I mean, I'm touring hardly at all. The big thing for me was I was away all the time from my family. It was just too much, and yeah, just being a little more the whole focus with the record, with the plan, with everything is like quality over quantity. When the right opportunities come, I will work. I'll work hard, take the opportunities, but there's no blanket. There's no like scattergun. It's like what we're trying to achieve. How are we going to achieve that? Let's just do that thing, and none of the other things. Because I've done such a lot of it over the years. I really have seen the tiny percentage of stuff that's actually worth doing in the mass of things that you could potentially spend your days being asked to do. And so, also, it was just a really big thing that really struck me. When I was with Columbia a couple of records ago, and they were putting out their new Kate Bush album, and my publicist was her publicist, and I was just watching in awe the lengths that they went to accommodate their very difficult artist, and how much power she had by virtue of not agreeing to do anything. And I was like, if I ever get a chance to do this again with a new label and a new set of relationships, I'm going to try and set it up like that, just to make it that it's not a default that it's not presumed that I'll say yes, that people will have to make the case for everything. And I think that's actually good for them too, because people waste time and money with that with a lot of the time. So in my own little way, I've gone a bit more Kate Bush, and it seems to be working out. I suppose, most significantly, I've learned that I'm my father's son. My dad's all my life has been a sort of serial entrepreneur, and I would never have described myself as being particularly like a business person. But now, when I think about it, particularly in the recent times, I've realised that actually I do use a lot of the same sort of ways of doing things that he's always done, and actually that I am kind of an entrepreneur in my own kind of fuzzy little way. And that this is my business, and it just also happens to be my lifelong passion and my favourite thing in the world. I suppose the thing I've learned about it is that I guess I'm quite good at it. I've realised that was probably always the case, more so than I realised. I would always have said, "Oh, of course he's like this, and I'm not that way." I'm sort of reacting against that almost because it was very turbulent. But it's not the case. What I get from him is I'm comfortable with risk, and I'm comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen, and I have a built-in kind of, it's in my blood, I guess, the sense that a setback is almost certainly going to turn out to be an opportunity. I don't want to sound like a management guru, but it kind of just is true. But some people don't feel that way. But that's what I've got from my dad, and that's the thing that's helped me again and again in my peculiar ride. So yeah, thanks, Dad. Well, I think that's what entrepreneurs are, though. Actually, they're people who have a passion, and that's what they do. They blend. The reason why they're effective some of the time is because there's this complete synthesis between the love of the thing, the idea, the product, whatever it is, and the urge to, in some way, get it out into the world and have it be heard or seen or used or understood or whatever. So it doesn't really feel like it's. I don't have to choose between making it work on a business front and its purity as expression. I feel like it's really one and the same. It's just me, this thing that I do that I love, and a kind of peculiar kind of urge to find different ways, smart ways and funny ways to get what I do out into the world where it can live and do whatever it's going to do. It actually feels right now kind of doable. Like it might be possible to do all that and be really happy and really enjoy my work and even earn a living. It would be quite good if that worked out.